Welcome to Zenyo Workforce. In this video, we will explore the review setup in performance management. We'll focus on how to create the review group and identify the employees being evaluated, as well as how to schedule the review cycle for conducting reviews. Let's dive in. Before we begin, let's quickly define what a review group is. A review group is a specific collection of employees organized for performance evaluation, allowing for targeted assessments based on teams, roles, or departments. Let's start by creating a review group. Go to the app icon and select Performance to access the Review tab. Now, under the Review Group sub-tab, you will see the existing review groups. Click on the Add Group button to create a new group. You'll need to enter the group name. Set the date. Select the supervisor from the drop-down. Choose the frequency and provide a brief description. Once you've filled everything out, click the Create Group button. Once your group is successfully created, it gets added here. Information such as status, creator, and supervisor's name are displayed. To manage your group, click the More Actions icon. From here, you can add employees to this group by clicking the Add Employee option. You can filter them by department, office location, role, and designation. Then click Apply. Now, select the employees you want to add and click the Add Employee button. Similarly, you can also remove employees from the group. Edit the group details if needed. Delete the group permanently, or change its status to inactive. Next, click the Review Cycle tab. Here, you'll find a list of all existing review cycles. Each review cycle is represented as a card. Each card provides details about a specific review cycle, including its name, duration, and status. For ongoing and completed review cycles, a pie chart displays the progress of each cycle, with different colors representing different statuses. Let's go through the steps to create a review cycle. Review groups are automatically triggered for a review cycle based on the configured frequency. However, if you want to start a review cycle immediately, click the Create Ad Hoc Review Cycle button. Start by selecting the review group from the drop-down list and entering the review cycle name. Then, set the start and end dates to define the duration of the review cycle. Next, choose how you'd like to configure the review process. You have two options here. Setup from scratch means to create a new setup from the ground up. If you choose the clone from previous cycle option, select the review group and review cycle under the selected review group. The review process setup and review form from the selected cycle will be cloned for the current cycle. Here, I am choosing to configure the setup from scratch and clicking the Create Review Cycle button. Once the review cycle is created, it will be in the draft status. You may edit or delete the cycle using the More option. At the bottom of each card for cycles in draft status, there are action buttons available to manage the review cycle, such as Setup Review Process, Setup Review Form, and Launch. Note, if cloning was selected, only the launch step will be shown. To get started, click on Setup Review Process. The Create Review Cycle side panel will appear. After selecting the option, click the Create Review Cycle button. You will then see the 7-step review setup such as start date, reviewers, review flow, post-review meeting, publish and summary, visibility, and timeline. To set the appraisal start date, choose a date for the review cycle. Click Next to move on to step 2. This step involves selecting the individuals or groups who will participate as reviewers in the review cycle. It allows you to configure both primary and additional participants. You can choose Self, Reporting Manager, or Manager's Manager. If you choose Self, the individual under review can also act as a reviewer for their own performance. The Reporting Manager is the immediate supervisor or manager of the individual. The Manager's Manager is the higher-level manager above the Reporting Manager. This section allows you to add more participants as reviewers beyond the primary ones. Peers are colleagues at the same level as the individual under review. External is an individual outside the organization who may have relevant insights or feedback. Subordinates are the direct reports of the individual under review. For each of these additional participants, you can select the nominee, indicating who can nominate these participants. Example, the person being reviewed are their manager. You can also set the minimum and maximum participant values to define the range of reviewers required or allowed in each category. Note, it is mandatory to enter the minimum and maximum number of participants. You can also click the Add Additional Reviewers link to include more reviewers in the process. You can edit additional reviewer names if needed. Next, select Approvers for the nomination. Note, approvers are responsible for verifying and approving the reviewers selected by the nominees, ensuring fairness in the review process. Click Next to proceed to Step 3. This step involves configuring the flow and structure of the review process. You have two options for how the review process will be conducted: independently or sequentially. If you choose independently, review forms will be distributed to all reviewers simultaneously. This means each reviewer can complete and submit their form independently, without waiting for input from others. If you choose sequentially, review forms will be completed in a specified sequence. Once the reviewers in one step have submitted their forms, the next group of reviewers will be able to complete their reviews. Here I am choosing independently. Now, allocate a weightage % to each reviewer, indicating the importance or influence their feedback will have in the overall review process. For example, if the reporting manager's review carries more significance, you might assign them a higher weightage % compared to a peer reviewer. Next, let's configure some additional settings. You can set instruction messages for the reviewers. If you want to use the same message for all reviewers, select the checkbox. Alternatively, you can customize messages for individual reviewers if you prefer. Next, there is the proposed rating option. This allows reviewers to provide an additional rating along with the automatically calculated one after the average rating is determined. If you enable this option, be sure to specify which reviewers are permitted to provide a proposed rating. You can also enable the potential rating toggle, which allows reviewers to provide a rating that reflects their direct insights and observations regarding the employee's future growth potential. Once you've made your selections, click the Next button to move on to Step 4. In this step, you can enable or disable a toggle icon to allow managers to have one-on-one meeting after the review form submission. Once the toggle is enabled, enter the meeting name. Select the meeting participants and choose who can write the summary from the drop-down. After you've configured these settings, click the Next button to move to Step 5. This step is about configuring the options for publishing the review summary and managing who has the authority to do so. A review summary provides a concise overview of the key points from an employee's evaluation. By toggling this option, managers are allowed to compose a summary after the review is completed. By default, the performance admin will be responsible for publishing the review of an employee. Click the Next button to proceed to Step 6. This step involves setting the visibility preferences for the review forms during and after the review process. Choose who can access the form both while filling it out and after submission. If you'd like to keep the identity of the reviewers hidden, select the Anonymous checkbox. Click the Next button to proceed to Step 7. This step focuses on setting up the timeline for each stage of the review process. Note, all due dates will be calculated based on the start date of the review cycle. Set the number of days within which nominees should be submitted for all reviewers. Define the deadline for reviewers to complete and submit their review forms. This option allows you to configure individual timelines for each reviewer to complete their forms. You can click the Configure button to set specific timelines or customize deadlines for each reviewer if they differ from the general timeline. Specify the number of days within which the review meeting should be conducted with the employee after the submission of review forms. Set the timeline for when the summary of the review should be completed and submitted. Establish the number of days within which the review should be published to the employee. After you complete all 7 steps, click the Complete Setup button to finish the review setup. Once the review setup is complete, it cannot be revoked. Now that you've completed the review process setup, it's time to move on to setting up the review form. Click on Setup Review Form. You'll see a list of reviewers that you selected during the previous setup process. You'll also notice 2 sections, Review Form and Weightage. In the Review Form section, we'll set up the review form to evaluate different aspects of the employee's performance, including competency, core, goal, and question. Note, reviewers can choose the review form category section according to their preference. In the competency section, enable the toggle and select either comments, allowing for written feedback, or rating, using a predefined scale. Select a rating scale. Note, the rating scale you created in settings will be loaded in the drop-down for selection. In the core section, similar to the competency section, you can choose between comments and rating. The goal section outlines specific achievements and milestones the employee is expected to reach while developing their competencies. Select a time frame from the drop-down to set the expected period for achieving these goals and the response type. For the questions category, select a question template along with the response type. Click Next. You are navigated to the Weightage tab. Assign weightage for all the selected categories on the Review Form tab. And click Submit Review Form. Follow the same steps for the next reviewer. Submit the review form and you've completed the review form setup successfully. Note, make sure to submit the review form for each reviewer. After you've finished setting up the review process and the review form, it's time to launch the review cycle. Simply click on Launch. Once your review cycle is launched, its status changes to ongoing and you'll see a pie chart displaying the progress of each cycle, with different colors representing different statuses. Clicking on the More icon lets you initiate the review cycle, edit the cycle name, or delete the cycle. To learn how to initiate a review cycle, please watch our review administration video linked in the description. Now you know how to create a review group and set up a review cycle. With these steps, you can configure the review process to ensure smooth and accurate performance evaluations for each employee. Make sure you like, subscribe, and get notified so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Let us know if you have any queries. Thanks for watching.